You're here today because, let's be honest, you're probably looking for a shortcut,
Hmm.
a smarter path maybe to mastering those English proficiency tests. You know, the IELTS, TOEFL, Cambridge one.
The big ones, yeah. They can feel pretty daunting.
Exactly. And you've probably heard all the usual advice or maybe tried things that just didn't quite, click for you.
Right. Things that sound good, but don't deliver.
Well, today we're kind of cutting through all that noise. We are going to give you a shortcut, but maybe not the one you expect.
Okay.
It's not really about avoiding the hard work. It's more about working smarter, finding the most direct, the most effective path through all the complexity of these tests.
That's precisely our mission with this deep dive.
Yeah.
We've really dug into, well, a whole collection of insights and real-world experiences.
Where from?
From students who've actually aced these exams, the high scorers, and also from expert instructors, people who teach test prep day in, day out.
Well.
And our goal is basically to pull out the most important bits of knowledge, debunk some common myths that can actually hold you back.
Oh, there are definitely myths out there.
Absolutely. And give you a clearer, more effective roadmap to hitting your language goals.
And here's where it gets, I think, really interesting. What we've uncovered reveals some, frankly, surprising truths about what high-level English even means in this context. We'll share some powerful, really actionable techniques for each test section.
Yeah, practical stuff.
And finally reveal what seems to be the single most important factor, the thing that really separates success from, well, struggle. Okay, let's unpack this.
Yeah, let's do it. What's fascinating right off the bat
Yeah.
is how often people misunderstand the very idea of high-level English.
How so?
Well, there's this widespread myth, that to get a high score, you need to use incredibly complex words, like really obscure vocabulary.
Right, and super convoluted sentences.
Exactly. It's almost as if students think the fancier the word, the better the score.
That's a really powerful point about simplicity. But how did you actually see that playing out? Was there an experiment or something?
Absolutely. We saw this get totally debunked in a fascinating experiment. Students were given essays to score, right? But they didn't know the official band.
Okay, bands being the scores, 1 to 9.
Right, 9 is top proficiency. And incredibly, these students consistently rated Band 6 essays, which, were often a bit messy, but stuffed with complicated sounding language. They rated those higher than actual Band 9 essays.
Wow, so they thought the messy ones with big words were better.
Yeah, and conversely, the real Band 9 essays, which are usually remarkably simple, very clear, easy to understand, they thought those were Band 6.
Okay, that really highlights something crucial then. These tests, fundamentally, they're testing clear communication in English.
Exactly.
Not your ability to memorize weird words or, show off vocabulary you don't fully grasp.
Precisely. And if you connect that to the bigger picture, the whole purpose of language, whether it's in a test or just, real life, it's clarity. Clarity is king.
Yeah.
Trying to force those big words you don't really understand, it can backfire. Big time.
Oh.
Well, it often leads to loads of errors, right? Grammar mistakes, using the word in the wrong context. And ironically, it can actually lower your score.
So the goal is just effective communication, getting your ideas across clearly.
Just like you would in a meeting or an academic chat or even just talking to friends. It's about being understood, not trying to impress with complexity nobody follows.
That focus on clarity is just fundamental, isn't it? And it flows right into how we should approach strategic writing. Because a lot of us, myself included sometimes, fall into that trap of just scattergun brainstorming for essay ideas. But what did the research show is actually more effective?
Well, it raises that exact question.
Yeah.
If not just random brainstorming, then what? The most effective way, we found, is what we're calling the direct method.
Okay, the direct method. What's that?
It's not about deep philosophical thinking or trying to invent something totally new. It's more about, well, grabbing the obvious stuff first.
Like the low-hanging fruit.
Exactly. Look at the question and just think. What are the simplest, most obvious, most popular answers? What's the first thing most people would say about this?
Ah, I see. So it primes your brain for clear, relevant ideas straight away.
Right. Gets you started quickly with things that actually fit the question.
And then, once you've got those initial ideas, comes planning, which under exam pressure feels like the first thing to skip, right? Just start writing.
Oh, definitely. The temptation is huge.
But treating your essay like a trip without a map, you just get lost.
You really do. Even just say 1 or 2 minutes spent planning
Hmm.
is like your GPS for the essay. It's crucial.
So spending that tiny bit of time up front saves you getting tangled up later.
Precisely. It saves significant time overall and stops you from, wandering off topic or getting stuck halfway through. It gives you that structure.
Okay, so you've got your plan. Now, developing the ideas within each paragraph. Every main body paragraph needs that clear topic sentence, right? Stating the main point up front.
Absolutely. Sets the stage for the paragraph. And then comes this technique, the so what technique. It sounds simple, but it's surprisingly powerful.
Explain that, the so what technique.
Okay, so you make a point in your topic sentence. Then you have to mentally ask yourself, so what?
Mm.
Never assume the examiner just gets it.
Okay.
You need to explain your points really thoroughly, almost like you're explaining it to someone who knows absolutely nothing about the topic.
Can you give an example?
Sure. Let's say your topic sentence is, studying abroad improves cultural understanding. Good start. But then ask, so what?
Right.
And you elaborate. Well, this means that when individuals are exposed to different customs and traditions firsthand, they develop more empathy. They get a broader perspective on global issues. See, you push yourself to explain the implication. Answer, so what, about each point you make.
That forces deeper development. I like that. And then, of course, examples.
Examples are vital. You need specific examples to back up your points.
Do they have to be, like, factually true from real studies?
Not necessarily. The examiner isn't fact-checking you in that way. They don't have Google handy.
Right.
But the examples must make sense. They have to be believable and directly prove the argument you're making.
So you could say something like,
Yeah, you can use phrases like, for instance, recent research suggested that, or a recent study found that. You could use these to introduce a general point that supports your argument, even if you just made up this specific study on the spot. It just needs to sound plausible and relevant.
okay, that makes sense. Believable support. Now, moving on to paraphrasing. This is a big one.
Huge. The goal is basically to change the sentence structure and use appropriate synonyms to rephrase ideas.
But there are pitfalls, right? Common mistakes.
Oh, yeah. Big ones, like don't try to change every single word, especially common words, articles like the, prepositions like in, on.
Yep.
Trying to change those is a dead giveaway.
It's forced.
Totally forced.
Yeah.
And crucially, don't just grab synonyms from a thesaurus without really thinking, because they have to match the context and the precise meaning. Using the wrong synonym or forcing a change just so you don't repeat a word, that leads straight to grammar errors, and it actually lowers your score. It's about accuracy and sounding natural, not just swapping for bigger words.
Right. Precision again. Okay, let's shift gears to speaking. Speaking naturally. There's this common idea, isn't there, that speaking really fast means you're fluent.
Yeah, that's a massive misconception. True fluency isn't about speed. It's about speaking naturally, without lots of awkward pauses or hesitations.
And speaking too fast can actually hurt you.
Absolutely. Your pronunciation can suffer, your grammar gets messy. You might struggle to find the right words because your brain just can't keep up. It becomes this race you can't possibly win.
And what about memorized answers? We hear about those.
Avoid them. Seriously. Examiners are trained, like really trained, to spot them.
What happens if they think you're reciting something?
Well, we hear this from examiners all the time. If they detect a memorized answer, they will immediately ask you a completely different, unprepared question on a different topic.
Oh, wow. To catch you out.
Exactly. To gauge your real spontaneous speaking ability, and your score will be based on how you handle that unexpected question, which could potentially drop your score quite a bit.
Okay, so authenticity is key. What about part one specifically, those initial questions?
Yeah, the key insight here, which people often miss, is that examiners value naturalness and coherence more than, like, forced complex grammar.
So simple and clear is better.
Way better. A simple, clear answer may be followed by one natural bit of elaboration and explanation, an example that's much more effective than some forced, grammatically complex thing that sounds rehearsed.
So the best practice is answer the question directly.
Yep, then elaborate a bit.
Yeah.
Add an explanation, an example, maybe some extra detail. Don't obsess about counting sentences. Just focus on getting your message across clearly and coherently, like a normal conversation.
Okay. And part two, the longer turn where you talk about a topic.
The goal there is fluent, coherent speech for up to 2 minutes. The key isn't just listing the bullet points on the card. It's about developing your ideas thoroughly. Show you can talk about something in depth, sustain a thought coherently. Depth over just ticking off points.
And part 3, that feels more academic.
It is. It's more like an academic discussion. The questions are abstract, quite similar in style to writing task 2, actually.
So it's not just about your personal feelings.
No, not really. It's about your ability to discuss broader concepts. You need to fully develop your ideas, explain them, give examples. Sometimes you might even present a couple different viewpoints before offering your own. Shows you can handle complexity.
Okay, so all these skills, writing, speaking, they don't exist in isolation. How does this all connect to reading and listening? Let's start with reading. It's more than just reading words, right?
Definitely.
Hmm.
Reading is multifaceted. The crucial first step, and honestly it gets overlooked so often, is really understanding the question.
Sounds basic.
It does. But a surprising number of mistakes happen because people misinterpret the nuance of the question. They jump to find keywords instead of truly grasping what the prompt is asking. And then they find an answer that matches the keyword but isn't actually the right answer to the question.
Okay, understand the question first. Then what?
Then, strategic reading. You need different gears. Skimming, just getting the general gist. Scanning, quickly locating specific keywords or names. And then close reading, really digging into a sentence or paragraph for detailed understanding.
Can you give an analogy for that?
Yeah, think of finding, say, the number of angels mentioned at Rockefeller Center in a text. You wouldn't read the whole article slowly first. You'd skim, maybe to confirm the topic is about New York landmarks. Then you'd scan specifically for the words Rockefeller Center.
Got it.
Once you find that phrase, then you do a close read of that specific sentence or paragraph to find the detail about the angels. Different tools for different tasks.
And vocabulary's role in reading.
Huge. A wider vocabulary helps you read faster, understand more, and crucially, spot the synonyms. Questions often use different words than the text, so recognizing those paraphrases is key.
Okay. And effective listening. What's the key insight there?
It's about going beyond just the individual words. So many students just focus on catching keywords.
Right.
But the real skill is listening to the speaker's intonation, the rise and fall of their voice. That often signals what's important, or if they're changing topic. Gives you context. You need to pay attention to the overall flow and meaning, the connections between ideas, not just isolated words.
And managing time during the listening section.
Absolutely critical. Use those short breaks between sections really wisely. Preview the next set of questions, try to predict possible answers, underline keywords.
And if you miss one?
Don't panic and don't dwell on it. Seriously, just move on.
Yeah.
If you get stuck on one question, you risk missing the next few. Cut your losses and stay focused on what's coming up.
That makes sense. Focus is key under pressure.
And finally, vocabulary again. It threads through everything, doesn't it?
It really does.
It's not just for reading or writing. It's massive in every single part of the test.
Yeah.
But here's a surprising truth. Just memorizing lists of isolated, high-level words, that often leads to misuse.
Using them wrongly.
Exactly. Which can actually lower your score more than using a simpler word correctly. Real vocabulary power comes from understanding context.
So how do you build that?
Learn words in context. From real English sources, news articles, books you enjoy, movies, podcasts. Note down not just the word, but its different forms. Noun, verb, adjective, and its collocations.
Collocation.
Yeah, words that naturally go together. Like you make a decision, you don't do a decision. Learning those natural pairings makes your English sound much more fluent and accurate. And review them regularly, of course.
Okay, this brings us to maybe the biggest piece. Mindset. The ultimate game changer. We've talked strategies, techniques, but real success isn't about finding some magic trick or shortcut that avoids effort, is it? I remember one successful student saying, practice doesn't make you better. It's what you do after practice that makes you better.
That's it. Exactly. Success comes from consistent hard work, yes, but strategic practice. And having a positive, resilient mindset. The people who consistently nail these tests, they focus on genuine improvement, not quick fixes.
So that raises the question, how do you genuinely improve after practice? What does that look like?
It boils down to analysis and feedback. Just doing test after test after test, that's not enough. Not even close.
Right. You feel busy, but you're not necessarily getting better.
Exactly. The real learning, the improvement, it happens after the practice is done. When you thoroughly analyze your mistakes and figure out why you made them, that's where the progress happens.
And getting feedback.
Professional feedback is invaluable here.
Yeah.
It's like taking your car to a mechanic or going to see a doctor, right? An expert can quickly diagnose the root cause of your problems. Maybe it's a specific grammar issue, like you always misuse articles, or prepositions are a nightmare for you. They can pinpoint it and guide you on exactly what to fix.
But it's targeted.
Super targeted. And that targeted approach is actually a huge shortcut in terms of time because you stop wasting energy on things that aren't the main issue and focus on fixing the real problems.
But the feedback itself isn't magic either. You have to act on it.
Absolutely. Feedback is totally useless without action. You have to be prepared to actually work on those weaknesses until they become strengths.
I remember reading about one student who said they used to just glance at their corrected essays,
Hmm.
but it was only when they, quote, literally highlighted my mistakes and went through it and actively rewrote sections, that's when they saw real improvement. It takes effort.
It does. And this ties into time management, too. People think time management is a separate skill you learn with tips.
Yeah, like spend X minutes on this part.
Right. But really, time management improves as a result of getting better at the core skills. It's not the cause, it's the effect.
Okay, maybe.
Well, for example, if you get faster and more accurate at reading comprehension, you will automatically manage your reading section time better. You don't need a tip for that, you just need better reading skills.
So the focus should be on improving the underlying skill and the time management follows.
Exactly. Then you can think strategically about allocating time.
Hmm.
Maybe spend less time on the first, easier reading passage to save more time for the harder third one. But that only works if your fundamental skills are strong.
And finally, just living with the language more.
Immersion, yeah.
Yeah.
Integrate English into your daily life, but make it enjoyable. Read books or articles about stuff you actually like. Watch movies or TV shows you're interested in, maybe without subtitles sometimes.
Talk to people.
Engage in English conversations whenever you can. Consistent exposure and production, even if it's just for short bursts each day, builds those foundational skills organically. It makes the test feel less like this huge, scary hurdle and more like, well, just using the English you already know.
So, wrapping this deep dive up, it seems achieving your English test goals really hinges on a few core ideas.
Yeah, I think so.
Embracing clarity and simplicity over trying to force complexity,
Definitely number one.
adopting strategic planning, and really developing your ideas properly in writing and speaking.
Using things like that so what technique.
Right. And actively, honestly analyzing your mistakes and getting good, targeted feedback.
And then acting on it.
And acting on it, yeah.
Yeah.
And finally, just cultivating that resilient mindset, valuing the consistent work, and actually engaging with English in a way you enjoy.
Absolutely. And remember, this isn't just about passing some test. It's really about becoming a clearer, more confident, more effective communicator in English.
Which helps you everywhere.
Exactly. In your career, in your studies, just in your personal life. The clarity and the strategic thinking you build for the test, that will serve you way beyond the exam room. It's a lifelong skill.
So maybe the final thought for you listening is this. What area of your current English practice are you ready to be truly honest about? Where's the real struggle? And what's the first strategic step, maybe based on what we've talked about today, that you'll take to start transforming that struggle into a real strength?
Thank you for watching. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you never miss our future lessons. See you in the next video.